Hello everybody, it's Gemma here from Made by Gemma Crafts at Cody.co. Thank you for joining me again today. Now today's tutorial is going to be on this card here. Now I made this for the Crafty Cupcakes Team Blog Hop last month, or should I say this month still, and our theme was fancy fold cards. So I did a pop-up tuxedo fold card, so you'll see our card will stand up like so. And it kind of looks like a little bunch of flowers. And the thing that makes mine different is that I've put in a diagonal bar inside the card. Rather, if I just grab this one here, which was one of my practice ones, I flip it over, you'll see the bars are running from side to side. And I didn't like the way that the embellishments were sitting on the pieces of window sheet, flopping all over the place, not straight, didn't like it. Because I've also made a bigger version and I've used some of the large letters to put love in there. So that was the reasoning behind wanting to put in a diagonal bar. See, and the other problem was with the diagonal bar, of course, if you glue in both ends, you're not going to be able to fold it flat to put in a box or an envelope to send it. So what I've done is I've used some craft magnets inside, so it sort of snaps into position and then stands up nicely, and all your embellishments are facing the way you want them. So let's pop these out, and here also I have made a box as well. I will make a separate video on the box and that will be my next tutorial. So today I'm going to use some different designer series paper. I'm going to use the Bubbles and Fizz, which is in the Celebration brochure. So because this card here is quite feminine, so I thought we'd try and go for maybe a more masculine card that maybe we could give to a teenager or young man. So what I've done is I've got my bits and bobs here. I've got my pieces of window sheet here that we're going to use to put our embellishments on. What I've done is I've fussy cut some of the bottles from the designer series paper, and then some of the bottle tops I've punched them out using my 1 1/4 circle punch. Fits quite nicely, so we've got some of those to put on as well. I also thought I would use the Happy Birthday Gorgeous stamp set, because we can use the sentiment party time across the front, and then maybe if we've got time we'll do some balloons that we can stamp and punch out as well. Add them in. But for our card base, I'll just pop these bits out okay. To start with, you're going to need a piece of card that measures 6 inches by 8.5 inches. And then also you're going to need another strip of card that measures 3/4 of an inch by 4 7/8 of an inch. And this is lemon lime twist that I'm using today. My little piece of Whisper White here, that measures 1 inch by 3 3/4 of an inch, I think. I'll double check the measurement on that, but as I said, as always, all the measurements and everything will be on my blog, and the link to that will be in the description box below. Then I've got my designer series paper, which I've already pre-cut. So I've got 4 squares that are 1 3/4 by 1 3/4. I've got 2 little triangles here, which was a 1 3/4 by 1 3/4 square, and I've just cut that in half diagonally there for our little triangle flaps on the front. And then I've got 2 longer pieces, and we need to cut the corners off these to get them to fit in our card. But for now, these are 1 3/4 by 3 3/4. So we can pop our designer series paper out of the way for now, because we don't need that. What we're going to do is we're going to do some scoring first. Very simple with the scoring on this. We'll be scoring both pieces of our card as well while we've got the scoreboard out. Let's find my score tool. Now you want to start with the 8.5 inch side at the top of your board, and we're going to score it at 2 inches, 4 inches, 6 inches and 8 inches. And then we're going to rotate this, and we're just going to do one score line on this side at 2 inches like so. So that is all our scoring on our big piece of card. Now if we bring in our little strip, which is going to be our support bar inside the card, we are just going to, on the long side, score this at 1 inch on either end. So score at 1, rotate, score at 1 again. And that is all our scoring done for now. There's only a tiny bit more scoring to do on our main piece of card. So for now we can just put our little support bar piece to one side. Now the easiest way I found to get the cutting done on this card is to use a trimmer. So we've got our big rectangles across the top here, and we've got our squares here. We've got our skinny rectangles on the end, on this side. So we're just going to pop in our piece of card on the 6-inch side at the top, and we're going to slide it over to 4 inches, like so. Now we're going to use our blade to cut up to this second score line from the bottom. So we've got our skinny rectangle here and our first square. So we're going to take our blade and cut up to our first line there. Now I'm going to run the blade up to the top, and then I'm going to take the blade down now to the first score line here. There we go, like so. I just have to check because I don't want to lean right over, otherwise you won't see a thing that I'm doing. Now you can open that up, and now we've got a cut line here and a cut line here, so we should have 2 panels on the inside. What we need to do now is we need to take this cut line here, and we want to line it up and cut across to our middle line here. So I'm going to turn my cardstock. On my trimmer here, I've got a wire that runs down the middle, so you can line up. So I can line up on that point here. Just point it out there. And then we're going to come down and line up with our cut line that we've done to this point here. And then we're just going to trim this. Like so. Just carefully. So that's one point. And then we're going to rotate, and we're going to do the same on this one. So we're going to go from our middle point here down to our cut point there, like so, and take that out. So now we've got like a little boat shape maybe cut on the top of our card there. Now what we need to do is we need to take away this rectangle here on this side. We don't need this. So on my scoreboard, on my trimmer, I've got measurements across the bottom as well. So I tend to use the bottom one, so I line it up at 1/2 inch and then just take it down to the first score line that's there, like so. And then I can just use my snips just to cut off at a slight angle. So I've got a little tab there, and also going to just take the corner off here as well, just so it sits nice and neatly, like that. We do need to do some folding and burnishing now. Oh, let's not mix up the scraps with the bit we need. Never a good start. So now we can take away our trimmer, because we just need to do one little bit more scoring on the card. So we need to score diagonally from our point here where we've cut down to this point. We need to come across diagonally here and here. Now I use the back of my stamp positioner because it's got a foam back on it. So if you've got a foam mat or a soft craft mat, you can just grab a ruler and line it up with your diagonal cut coming down there, and then just score gently across this square, like so, on one side, and then turn it round, line up again with this line that you've cut here, then just score gently, like so. Let's take this out of the way as well now. Pop that out of the way, get rid of the ruler, grab my bone folder, and then what we can do is we can take these back on themselves. Try and make sure they're nice and straight. Hopefully yours will be a bit straighter than mine, because you'll be able to see what you're doing. And then we're just going to fold and burnish these long score lines here, and then our little tab line there as well. So I'm going to start with that one. I'm just going to fold that over and then work my way across the card. We don't need to score this line. We don't need to burnish on this score line at all. Just helping us with our measurements. Ooh. So there we go, we've got our folds and scores all done now. So what we need to do now is we need to add some decoration to our card. So I'm going to flip this over so my tab is now on the left hand side here. So this is going to be the inside of my card. And I've got my long pieces of designer series paper which we're going to pop in here, but we need to obviously trim them down. So I've tried a few different ways of trying to do this, but I think possibly, it might be easiest to sort of line up your piece of designer series paper in there, and then grab the ruler that you just got rid of, and then just sort of line up where you want your border to be. To try and make it even as you can. Grab a pencil and just draw a line across there. Then you can either pop it on your trimmer, or I'm just going to use my snips for now. Just to carefully go across that line, like so, and hopefully, in theory, it should. There we go, it fits really beautifully in there. So that's one side done. Now we're just going to do the same for the other side. Obviously it's going to go in the opposite direction. I mean, getting your pieces of patterned paper to fit odd shaped cards is a bit hit and miss. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I think it's just a bit of trial and error and working out which method works for you best. So again, I'm just going to try and make sure my border is even, just by guessing about there. So there we go, I've got my pencil line. I'm just going to cut down. So you can use your rubber to just erase any little lines left behind, but you don't need to press very hard, just press gently. And then hopefully this one should fit as well. And fingers crossed, they may be pretty even as well. There we go. Yep, not too bad. I think I did pretty well there. I mean, as you'll see, they're not quite straight across the bottom, but we won't really see that bit that further down. So maybe just concentrate on getting your top bit nice and even looking. So we can glue these in. There we go. And then our next step after we've glued in these pieces is to put in the support bar with our magnet, so we can then carry on decorating our card, because we're going to use the patterned paper to cover up where we put our craft magnet. So we're going to take our little support bar here, just going to fold over these score lines, and then you want your little tabs to be on the facing downwards, and we're going to position this probably just off centre a bit, so probably about 1/4 of an inch from this line here, and about roughly 3/4 of an inch from there. Yeah, so just roughly, and then you want to make sure that when you put your glue on, that you're putting it on this side to the left of our score line. So let's put some glue on here. Let's just pop that on. Position it a little bit literally a couple of mil from that score line. So there's our first side there. Now I'm just going to get my magnets. These are the extra strong craft magnets, and I get mine from eBay. I will look up and put a link to that as well for you if you wish to get some. Now I'm going to use some glue dots because they are the best thing for sticking these little things on. They're just the right size. So I'm going to put one magnet on the tab of my support bar there, and then to get it into the correct place I'm going to use the other one and just, oh, a bit fiddly, flip it over, there we go. So I've stuck the other one onto there, that's being held on at the moment, so now we can just slide this one over to position our bar inside. So again, we want it to the right hand side of our score line here. If I turn this over, you'll see that our magnet is a little way in, so our designer series paper is going to cover it. Now the easiest way to get this magnet in the right place is to, it will stay where it is because the other magnet's holding it from behind. Just take your pencil and draw a circle around it, like so, because now you can take that off. Remember which way round that they are magnetised together. Pop a glue dot on, and then you can pop that straight in the middle of that circle you've just drawn there, so you know it's in the correct place, and then that will snap shut and hold tight. But we can open this out for now because this is stuck on there quite firmly. On here, I'm just going to give that a good squish down, but I am going to just trim a little piece of DSP to put over the top of it. Is that a bit big, a bit wide yet? Just to try and hold the magnet down, make sure it's nice and secure. So I've just trimmed it over so it will fit over the top. I'm going to put loads of glue on here and probably another glue dot as well to make sure it all stays on together. So I'm going to give that a good saturating, and then I'm going to grab another glue dot and place it on top of the magnet so it's all nice and stuck and secure, like so. I'm going to give that a good squish down. If you put loads of glue on, it will make the paper just a little bit soggy, so you can just squish it down with your fingers. It's all nice and secure and safe on there, and it's not going to come off. Like so. Now we can just leave that to dry, because now we can flip over and we need to put our designer series paper on the outside of our card. I'm just going to put some glue on here and stick these down. Now, I just love this paper. That one of my favourite colour combinations at the moment is Bermuda Bay and Lemon Lime Twist. It just looks so yummy. Can't really explain it, but and then the one that's got the magnet, again, plenty of glue to make sure it's really stuck firmly over the top of the magnet, and you can just use your fingers to squish down the paper around it. Shouldn't see it too much. There we go. So that's that bit. And then finally our last piece here. Wow, I've done this really. It's all a bit skew with. There we go. But that's our final piece here. Didn't cut that very well earlier. There we go. So the only bit we need to do now is put on some triangles on our little flaps here. So what I've done is, because the bottles would be all facing funny directions, I've just cut on the back of the bottle top piece, and it's the Bermuda Bay stripes. So as I said, I cut a piece to 1 3/4 by 1 3/4, and then just chopped it in half. As you'll see, they fit in there quite nicely. So there's that. So you get a nice bit of contrast as well. I mean, I think these lines are going to go in opposite directions, but it doesn't really matter to me. But obviously, if it's going to matter to you and you want it all facing the same way, just cut 2 squares and then cut them in half so you've got 4 triangles, and then just match them up. So like so, and then we can just pop this over here. I'm going to fold that back for now, because then to assemble and put our card together, we just need to put some glue or tape on this piece here. I'm just looking around for my fast fuse. I am going to use some fast fuse on this because it's nice and strong, so I'm just going to, whoop, if fast fuse wants to work, which is actually also, I'm just going to say, fast fuse is being discontinued. It's retiring. So if you really love it, buy some now while you can still get it. There we go. And we can just fold that over, stick that down, give it a squish, and then we can push. You might have to just stick your finger inside just to, yeah, if it's flipped over, there we go. Flip it around the right way, give it a squish, and then push it open, and it should stick nicely on the inside. So there we go, we've got our piece diagonally sitting in there quite nicely. And then if we just fold this down, we can give our little triangles on the front a little burnish, like so. So there's our card folded flat, and then we push it up together and it sits in a square. So now what we need to do is we need to embellish and decorate our card. So we've done that bit. Let's get moving on this. So I've got my piece of Whisper White that I'm going to stamp on. And we're going to go for Party Time. Or should we go for It's Your Day? Let's have It's Your Day. Just change our mind halfway through. Love that. Just change my mind. So I'm going to use some Bermuda Bay. I'm just going to stamp this on the middle of my piece of card. There we go. That's done. Let's close that. Now, the punch that goes with the Truly Tailored stamp set, ooh, this one here, is great for making the little shaped ends on the end of your cards, on the end of your banners. I found that out the other day. So what I've been doing is just sliding it in and trimming it off, and look, you get a nice little banner end. So woohoo! So there you go, top tip, use your, I can't remember what it's called, this punch at all, but it's the one that goes with the True Gentleman Suede. Do keep getting a little burr, but we can just trim them off. So we've got this piece which is going to sit across the front of our card like so, and I'm going to put a dimensional on one end only, because obviously we don't want it fixed on both sides, otherwise it's not going to go. So if we just fix it to one side, we can still fold our card flat. So that is ready. There we go, little top tip for you. And we are going to now, I've got some window sheet here, hope you can see that. So I'm just going to arrange my bottles on there that I've cut out. So maybe put that one, I'm just going to stick some of them down flat, and then some of them I'm going to use some dimensionals to make them pop out a bit. So let's stick a glue dot on that one there, and that one there. And then maybe we'll just use a dimensional on the back of this one. I haven't actually really kind of planned where everything was going to go on this card, so it's going to be a bit, maybe a bit hit and miss. I'm not too sure yet. So we've got that one there, we've got one more to go. Maybe if we just get our piece of window sheet, we can poke it inside, because I've cut this to just under 2 3/4, so it's just going to sit beautifully in our card. So maybe I'll put one on the front. Just pop that in quickly, put one there. Just pop another dimensional behind that to hold that piece up as well. As I said, it's a bit of a hit and miss, this card. I've not planned it out. And then I've got some little strips here. I'm just going to pop a glue dot on the end and stick my bottle tops on. Let's do a few of these. Punched out 3, so just love glue dots. They're so good for these kinds of projects. So there we go. And final one, a nice star bottle top. So we can start by popping this in. Then you can decide whether you're going to put it in front of the bar or behind the bar. It's completely up to you. Now I'm going to slide mine in behind. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use my pokey tool to put some glue dots on the bar on the inside. Oh, so let's put one in the middle. Obviously just be careful not to shut the card, otherwise it's all going to get stuck together. One there. And another one on the other end. I mean, you can fix your acetate in before you close your card front, before you fix it all together, whatever you want to do it. This is probably the most awkward way of doing it, and then you can just slide that in, put your fingers in the bottom and give it a good squish to make it stick. So no, we're not looking as good as I thought we were, but never mind, because now we can just come along. And if I just trim this down a little, pop another glue dot on here and put that in there. We've got a bottle top here, and let's trim this one down and stick one right in the front across. And it's completely up to you. I mean, you can plan yours out so much better than what I have. And then one final one. Obviously need a little bit of activation before I can give it to anyone, but I think this just helps you get the general idea of what I've done and how I've done it. Can we get that to stick? There we go. So I've now stuck that in there. We can grab a dimensional. I don't think we're going to have time to put any balloons on as well, and then we can just put that across on one side. So we've got one side on our dimensional, one side free, and we can still fold our card. Now you can also put a piece of ribbon around the bottom. I'm not going to on this one because it hasn't come out as well as what I wanted it to, but here we go. Here's the original one, and as you see, hopefully, this one I've just made here maybe a bit more masculine, a bit more suitable for someone, maybe a teenager, well, a late teenager, maybe 18, 19. Yeah, so there's that. As I said earlier, all the measurements and everything will be on my blog. I will do a separate video for you on how I made the box and the measurements and everything for this card. I shall make one to match this card and film that one for you as well. All to say is thank you for joining me again today. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you found it informative, and I'll see you all again really soon. Thanks, bye.